reading the code.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you make those two statements.
Yeah, it's like, yes, we'll allow the penetrations, but only if it's because the shaft requires it.
The shaft will never require a penetration by a joist or beam, so it seems like a weird statement. And I'd love to see what the commentary says.
Remember Logan and
Sorry, that was good.
well, he's got it right there on his iPad.
I know.
Ever think of allowing use of this equipment?
Hell, can I use this equipment?
I'll allow
Kind of put me in a little bit of a situation because obviously I'm turning over this direction to you guys, taking the control out of my hands without thoroughly researching it. Didn't bring the handbook.
We can give you some time to Logan's iPad and we can call somebody else.
I prefer not to table it. Obviously, if you guys feel that this is the direction,
I mean, I would love to have this question answered because, you know, it comes up a lot in Bloomington. I would love to have a definitive answer.
I mean, if he will allow you to look at the commentary, I can ask him if we can use his iPad. He wouldn't be taking action on it, so I don't think it's against the rules.
Somebody could ask the commissioner for a official.
Can we table it in the meeting?
If there's a conflict involved.
Mike, can we table it for him to do that while we do the other ones?
Interpretations, cases that don't involve disputes to the code commentary.
And leaving again?
Joe, I guess my thought is this.
For no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'll wait.
IBC?
Yes.
Well, Flying Home doesn't have code commentary that I
Chapter 13 of the IBC.
Months in my bookcase of work.
it's on my desk.
Dash
I wouldn't think about bringing it.
Coastline is 2015. IBC.
714.
Well, 713 says you have to comply with 714.
Well, in fire code, class 714.
The question was gonna ask, I'll wait to ask Joe until Logan steps out, so we don't have,
What was
don't
your,
have any
what was
conflicts.
your comment regarding point one? How did you see that conflicted?
So my question to Joe is, you're looking at 713 shaft enclosures, you said that Bloomington doesn't like, but to me, that shaft could be used for any number of things, whereas the 707 7.1 that you're citing is specific to enclosures for exit access stairways, exit access ramps, interior exit stairways. So to me, that's more specific of a provision than just an overall shaft.
Right. But these are shafts. They're stair shafts. They're shafts, right?
They are, but I feel like the 707 7.1 is more of a specific section to just an overall shaft. I guess that goes back to your question today. Why did you request a variance to this versus the other? Is it because Bloomington cited this versus the other section?
We didn't get a write-up from them.
7077,
Yeah, penetration.
so, but that's fire barriers, not shafts.
I agree, but that's the section that he's citing on his variance request.
But you noted in here, yeah, that that'd be fire code, and so the three sections you gave, 1022, 1023, and okay, I forget, they all reference 714.
I didn't say that.
Staff's notes, yeah, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, so.
Oh,
I'm sorry, so staff comments,
I'm
sorry,
just
so
waiting for the fire.
714 will be,
yeah, I do have an email. Again, we don't have a direct cite, but Bloomington was citing 707.7.1. And yeah,
The commentary says there can never be a penetration through a fire barrier that separates an adjacent exit enclosure.
no,
Other than
Through or into?
because what we have is a membrane penetration. We don't have a through penetration, which,
Yeah, through and into are different.
commentary only references through penetrations.
is this a membrane penetration of a stairway or enclosure wall?
Yes,
Basically, we have trusses.
it's a membrane penetration. It's not,
There's an exception created for that in section 1022, but I think it's only for electrical. Or something like that.
I would look at that penetrate.
outside of everyone.
And then the section you were referencing, 715.
Fire resistant rated assemblies, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
membrane penetration.
Yeah, right.
Penetrating items.
Look at the exception to 1022.5.
Three,
Fire resistant joint systems.
there is nothing.
So the 713.1 basically says, under shaft enclosures, interior exit stairways and ramps shall be enclosed and exit. 10.23, this section of 713 applies to vertical shafts enclosing exhaust ducts, gas flues, metal chimneys, vertical supply ducts, turn on air ducts, elevator hoistways, linen chutes, and trash trays. So it's not referencing stairways under 713.
Seven thirteen, the one I said, or
So the opening, the commentary under 713.1, that general stanza basically says it's for vertical penetrations for ducts, flues, chutes, elevator shafts. But it does not include stairways in that description.
seven thirteen does not include stairs.
Correct.
Scott, which section was that? Was that
So is this a membrane penetration?
7.13. 0.1. The commentary to that.
Membrane penetration on the outside of an interior exit stairway?
Yes.
Which is the exception noted in 1022.5.
We're on the inside.
I thought we were on the outside.
Outside. These are
Oh,
joint,
these are the outside base. I'm sorry, I thought you were
these are
doing
the
landing.
these are the floor joists for the rest of the building, not the landings.
I apologize, I thought you were doing a landing.
So yeah, 1022.5 penetrations. 1022 is interior exit stairways and ramps. 1022.5 exception, membrane penetrations shall be permitted on the outside of the interior exit stairway and ramp. Such penetration shall be protected in accordance with 714.3.2. Now I'm in breath. So let's see what 714. Yeah, 714.3.2 is a whole handful of stuff. Membrane penetration shall comply with 714.3.1, where walls or partitions are required to have fire resistance rating, recessed fixtures shall be installed. And then there's 5 exceptions.
So why do we want to do it this way? Again, I thought we were doing landings. I apologize.
Well, the issue is that all this stuff was previously designed, it's built in the shop, right? So they didn't allow for, I'm assuming hangers that you would typically install, and it's also a construction sequencing thing too, right? Because you want to have the drywall so you can put the hanger on it. And
So they have top cord bearing open wing trusses.
I know, but there's at least 2 other options.
the hardship is that all this stuff has been approved and they're already producing this stuff.
They're building it. They're manufacturing the truss.
And to even go one level more in detail, they already got 2 buildings built and got 3 or 4 more coming online.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure, honey, you're not aware of this, if you've been designing these kind of buildings.
Well, again,
Yeah, I thought we were talking about landings.
well, a previous variance, which I have that number, was last month in Bloomington as well, was approved. Same thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that approved by staff or us?
you guys.
Did we?
230335, Waters Edge Apartment.
I think there have been 2 or 3.
Oh, well, that's the problem. I recused myself. That's my project. Well, that would explain that.
I think the commissioners heard 2 or 3 recent variances, interestingly, all in the Bloomington area, where Rockwool has been suggested as a substitute for interruption of
Fire barrier.
rated membranes and other conditions like this.
And we're doing that.
I'm not sure why it's peculiar to Bloomington.
We do a lot of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the one I run into all the time is the front edge beam on a landing. It's so hard to hang that on the face of the inside wall because there's so much load on it. It's carrying an entire flight of stairs that's potentially, 12 feet, 15 feet long, if it's a straight shotgun stick. And it is really, really, really hard to not penetrate that and get that beam to somehow be supported. It's near impossible. And so we always run, that's the one thing we want to run into that wall. And I don't care what they got to do, firecracker, wrap with drywall, whatever, I don't care. I need to run that beam into that wall. And Bloomington's the only place that will let me do it.
Yeah, not to belabor this point, but I do see this exception that's in 1022.5, and it specifically says, as Chairman said, membrane penetrations, which we have, shall be permitted on the outside of the interior exit stairway and ramp, which that's what we have. It's not inside. Which then the question is, but then it says such penetration shall be protected in accordance 714.3.2, which I'm assuming we've already read that a couple of times, but I don't want this, I don't mind being the tip of the spear on stuff, but for my client's sake, so this doesn't become a event where we get a local official filing an appeal on a approved variance, which has happened before, to make their point. I'll let you guys decide what you want to do. But
I was gonna say, you're meeting one of those items in 714.3.1, or 0.2 rather, 714.3.2, if you're meeting one of those things, or if you meet 714.3.1 or one of the exceptions in 714.3.2, then you're in compliance with 1022's exception, because that all makes sense. Okay. I'll make sure my camera's off.
Let's just go ahead.
By looking through 0.3.2, I didn't see, off of Jim's computer, I didn't see anything that actually applied, because the first exception talks about electrical outlets. That's not.
Well, it says 714.3.2 tells you have to comply with 714.3.1.
Right.
Or meet one of those exceptions.
Okay, so we're not meeting the exceptions.
So membrane penetrations by boxes other than electrical boxes.
For the sake of time, I just assume if you guys are comfortable, approve it. And if Ed and I have another project that comes up that they want this, maybe we can more thoroughly investigate it. And
then NPR, you're afraid of an appeal, like you're telling us?
You have to pass the bill in order to know what's in it.
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I just want, before I second, I want to confirm that the intent then is to fire stop around these with.
the intent that we proposed was to put rock wool behind it. And then, see, there's two different details. And then the other one is to provide intumescent paint behind it too, if you want.
I just wanted to make sure that that was part of the submission, the solution was part of the submission, and we're not just approving a variance that says we're going to allow them to do the penetrations. So if that's the case.
The thing that got me a little concerned is whether this assembly that they talk about here, this this fire stop thing, if that would cause more heartache for the contractor. If you want fire caulking, I'm sure they can find a box of that and go do that at the stairwells. But they were going to put rock wool and intumescent paint.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And somebody thank you.
You want to keep him sequestered?
I want to do one more. Hey, Dad, just leave him out there.
Seriously?
Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. What was your, oh, your gosh, your other one was the
Center Grove.
super ass long one. Pardon.
It's not that long. I'll be quick.
230437 A, B, C, D, E, F. Center Grove Academic Pavilion, Greenwood.
Dave Cook, Ralph Curtis Consultants. Picture's worth 1,000 words. There's, I think, 3 drawings that might at least jump into this. Several of these variances. This is a unlimited area high school that is 3 stories in certain parts. It's got existing things within 60 feet of the building, travel distancing. So some of these are repetitive variances that we've gotten approved on this specific high school a couple different times as well as others. If you're looking at the site plan, any one of those design presentation drawings, the project is the academic pavilion on the left of the auditorium, and it's actually just half of that. It's not the whole thing. But the issue results because we're adding on to the building. It's a 3-story pavilion, and we're adding on to the auditorium that was built 3 or 4 years ago, which had nice windows facing to the left, which is west. So the first variance is a GAR variance that placing the school into non-compliance because of this 3-story addition. We are separating with fire barriers because we have existing walls that and the building is also fully sprinkled. Go through each variance, or I can do it one by one, or.
I make a motion to approve D as a code or as a variance.
The uniqueness of this building, it is 3 stories. They do have a 3-story light shaft, 2 of them. Go ahead.
Motion and second to approve variance D. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. D is approved. Go ahead.
So variance B is what I was just beginning to talk about. It has, excuse me, B. Variance C is the one I was just kind of mentioning. It has, it's a 3-story school, which the existing building in portions is 3 stories. But in the school, we have some light shafts that they wanted to bring light down through the center of the building. And we were going to propose for that closed space sprinklers and actually put some storefront glazing at each one of the openings on the 2nd and 3rd floor with closed space sprinklers on the outside in lieu of that. Variance A is for travel distance. I can explain that. Again, we're adding on to an existing building, so the inner portion of the school gets farther away, or the exits get farther away from the interior of the building. We do have existing horizontal exits that are being used, and the travel distance we're asking for is 320. And the list of variances I've put down there for other variances that have been approved for travel distance is not unreasonable to what we've gotten approved in the past for this school as well as others. Variance B is the issue of adding on next to the auditorium that has all the existing glass that's facing to the west in a what's going to become a fire barrier to separate this addition from the existing. We're going to put close space sprinklers on that glazing as well.
Is the entire school sprinkled?
Yes. Yeah. And put on some of these. This is a unique school from the standpoint we have maintained some of the existing area separation walls for horizontal exit purposes, as well as to help kind of break the building up a little bit because of the 3-story portion that I talked about. The open yard space variance, that is variance F, I think. Yes, variance F. We have an existing football press box, as you can see on the master site plan. And then a building that currently is there and probably as of today is probably actually torn down, that's in the middle of that parking lot that were both within 60 feet of the building. The grandstand press box is the only thing that's going to be remaining. That's been, has had a variance on that 2 other times for the 2 other additions to the school. And the other variances to allow a 3-story school to be unlimited area, which technically this is going to be divided, separated from the rest of the school by 4-hour walls. It's kind of its own separate building. And also part of the variance, the Bargersville Community Fire Department Fire Marshal has provided a positive comment to the whole process and the building that we're doing and towards the variances that we're doing. And I believe Fire Marshal may be listening in as well.
Did you say that the light wells are gonna have glass on floors 2 and 3?
Yes.
So they're,
Storefront system.
So they're somewhat creating a shaft, it's just not correct traditional shaft. And then you have a close space.
Yeah, I think we did that for 2 reasons. First of all, for the closed space sprinklers, and then also for, I'm sure high school kids wouldn't be throwing things down this light well onto people down below. So thought that was a good idea to kind of protect that from happening.
Any other questions? I'll make a motion to approve A, B, C, E, and F.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All right, motion to approve all remaining variances. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All that stuff, and yet it didn't take us as long as some of the short ones.
Is it safe to go get Logan now?
Yes.
Yes.
Open the door and say, never mind.
Derek, you ready? Come on down.
I'm all excited about these shipping containers.
We'll get to it.
All right.
Maybe. Which one are we doing?
White River paintball.
Hey,
Hey, I think
shipping containers.
Yeah, more shipping containers.
So 230438 A and B, White River paintball shipping containers, Anderson. See, but they're still in energy code, so we go there.
Derek Coleman, RTM Consultants. As you know, we're here talking about the White River paintball facility and the shipping containers that they are, well, they currently have in place. This is a variance you guys, a temporary variance that was granted, I believe, August of last year for them to use through the season for the Indy Screen Park that they host during Halloween time. That's what these containers are for. It's for the Indy Screen Park area. It's not necessarily for the paintball. They're not used in the paintball. Kind of got two separate variances we're looking at. The first one is for permanent conventional depth foundations in accordance with Chapter 16. And the other one is variance to not comply with the energy code because they're shipping containers and they're used on a temporary basis, seasonal basis, not temporary, but it's more seasonal basis. So the shipping containers themselves, they've gone through structural analysis and load calculations, all that's been submitted. They're complying with all the design criteria of Chapter 16 with the Indiana Building Code. Like I said, what we're going for a variance for is the kind of conventional foundation. They're going to use earth anchors. These are arrowhead anchors, or 10-inch wide, basically arrowheads that go down into the ground 5 feet. The structural engineer calls for one at each corner of all the containers except the entry facade. There's an entry facade. I guess I should back up. There's a total of 17 containers, 13 of which will have people inside of them at one way or another, whether it be 6 of them will kind of be an open structure for public kind of seating with picnic tables in it. 2 of them will be kind of drink concession stands. One of them is a ticket sales office, booth, box office. Another one's kind of a gift shop. 2 of them for employee use, for employees to get their makeup and costumes on for the haunted house area, for the screen park area. Another one is a parking lot attendant, and 4 of them that are not occupied will make up kind of what is the entry facade. They're kind of stacked on top of each other. All of them are 8 foot by 40, so approximately 320 square feet apiece. And they're all kind of separated from each other. They're not combining them together to make one larger structure as in floor area. The only ones that are combined are the entry facade, and they're stacked on top of each other. And the ones that are stacked are not occupied.
They haven't added any since the last time.
No.
This is the same plan as.
To my knowledge, that is correct, yes. So back to the anchorage, all of them that stand alone, they show 1 anchor at each corner, except for the entry facade. That's broken down into the plans that were submitted. The entry facade shows 11 anchors on the front going across the front side and 11 anchors going across the back side, spaced at 4 feet on center. So a total of 22 on the front and 22 on the back. No, sorry, 11 on the front, 11 on the back, and a total of 22 overall. Hang on, did I say that right? No, 22 on the front and 22 on the back. So the entry facade has 2 containers that sit on the ground, and each one of those will have 11 on each side. And the other containers are stacked on top of them.
One on top, we'll get that right here, but is it secured to the other 2?
Yeah, that's in the structural analysis as well, the connection points and all the loads that this entry facade has on it as well. Also on the line should be Benjamin Nettengast. He is the owner of Point Summit. If you guys have any questions for him as well.
Has anything changed since the last time we approved this?
Benjamin, can you speak to that? Because I know I was not involved in the last variance. To my knowledge, nothing has changed.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. The layout has not changed. The biggest change was we had additional work done by our structural engineer to source these anchors. We did a lot of work on determining the best way to anchor these containers because that was one of the concerns of the board previously. We do have other facilities that we operate, and we've used similar containers like this before, and having the ability to relocate them in the future is very helpful. But obviously our goal is to keep these mostly in place, and hence the large anchors and large number of anchors. We actually have 2 of these identical facade looking structures in Florida, and we use the same anchoring system, and those are all anchored against hurricane rated winds. And I'm not a structural engineer. I'll let the structural engineering speak for itself, but the layout itself is mostly the same. I don't believe we've moved too much. If we have, it would have been some slight adjustment of locations, but everything else is pretty much the same. The prior variance was for use during the Halloween season, which we've done, and we're trying to prepare for the next Halloween season, and our Halloween season this year will go for 40 days, or I should say 40 nights, and that's about a typical length of our season.
Was the unit that you used for like the guard shack on the main road? I don't remember that part of the approval last year. What's that made of?
That's the same as shipping container. It should have been included last year. It's the same general.
Just a shorter one?
It's just small.
Yeah, that one's a 20-foot instead of because there's only there's 2 parking staff in there who basically accept parking payment and up tickets.
And that one's an 8-foot by 20-foot container. And that is included in the drawing submitted.
Are we just looking for a 1-year approval again, or is this?
No, we're looking forward to treat these as, basically treat them as Class 1 structures, complying with the building code.
And looking at the minutes from the last approval, it also said that a lateral load analysis had to be done, so I completed.
Yeah, there's a whole
structural analysis, right?
The only thing I would say is granting a permanent variance gives me a little pause in the fact that the whole system you're putting in here is demountable and movable. And so if we give you a permanent variance, we have no checks and balances that not moving these on your own and doing something different down the road that.
What's the occupancy of this thing?
So like the occupancy is low, or what's it used for?
Used.
So it's kind of like correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like a waiting area before people go into the. I mean, you have a mercantile, you have business, and you have some open air pavilions, so kind of an A2.
So are we okay with every mercantile or business doing this from here on out? Because, I mean, if we're basically saying you can have this structure, we're saying they can all be this way.
So our approach on it is we're considering it type 5B construction per the building code, which allows you to utilize any material allowable by the code.
If you don't need the facilities, then you don't need to worry about the energy code. So it's 40 nights, just stress one.
6 of them have split systems.
Amen.
That's what we're doing the energy code, trying to do the energy code variance for, the 6 units.
These things are basically just sitting on the ground, so frost heave is gonna happen, so that's gonna start loosening up these anchors.
It's part of the experience, Joe.
And I'm not saying I think they'll tip over, but I'm saying, you know, they could become a little exciting during the wind event, high wind event.
I believe
Things will be a little, could get loose.
The anchors, I believe, are installed. Again, I'm not a structural engineer, but the reason why our engineers selected these, according to them, is that they're installed below the frost line. They go down to 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet below the ground.
I understand that. But whether the anchor comes up or the building pushes down, either way, it can become loose. You know, from frost heave movement and whatnot. I honestly, I have no problem with this in this application, but how are we not setting a precedent? I mean, I'd be fine and dandy with this one.
I mean,
Man, it looks like a precedent.
Just to interject real quick, we have another variance on this property for a structure that we received, I believe back in 2009. It's for one of our haunted house structures. And every year we do have the fire marshal who comes out, who has a copy of that variance and a copy of our file and does do an inspection every single year. We're required to obtain a permit from the state. We're required to file that permit. We're required to list on that permit what we're doing on the property, and we're not open until that permit is issued. So there is a check and balance there from that standpoint, because we're not allowed to operate the Halloween event because it's regulated by the state unless that inspection occurs, unless that permit is made, unless that approval is given.
Can't state.
I mean, I could say, you know, this is different and I have no problem with it. I can see myself saying that. But is somebody else gonna say, well, you approved it for them? And of course they will, and we can say, well, too bad you're not the same.
Phrases, similar variances.
Right, but, and we could easily say, well, I'm sorry, you're just not the same, it's not the same usage, so on and so forth, which is true.
You know, next, Hi-Fi is gonna come in wanting to do 12 months a year, no energy code, you know, and then again, maybe they already did get approval, I don't know.
I would second concerns about not having permanent foundations that we're going to consider a permanent structure, because those earth anchors, as I understand them, require them to basically be taut, right? And without a permanent foundation, there's no assurance that there won't be some settlement.
So from my research on these earth anchors that they're using is, like I said, it's a triangle that drives down into the ground with a galvanized steel cable that comes out of the ground, and it drives down the ground, and then you have to engage the anchor to make it a lateral load, basically. And basically by doing that, you're pulling the anchor in order to get it to engage. So the more it's pulled, the more it's being engaged.
But if there's differential settlement, and you have some anchors that are more taut than others, those anchors are going to take more load beyond what their capacity might be. And there's no assurance that there's not going to be settlement without permanent foundations or differential settlements, because we're just setting it on the ground.
I mean, even if the anchor doesn't move up, if you have frost heave, let's say the dirt kind of moves around whatever the bottom rail or something on these shipping containers is.
I believe these are all.
Then as that frost heave, as that ground thaws, it's gonna move back down. So now the whole shipping container moves down because the dirt moved around. So now the cable's loose. So do I know this will happen? No. Am I worried? Am I? Yes.
That's probably.
Do I care on this project? Probably not.
Who's gonna do regular checks on that then, if it's gonna move? 'Cause
But if
I know
when the next guy shows up, you know, and wants a real business done this way. And then we had one earlier, another shipping container project earlier, where one of their options was below frost footings, regular, you know, concrete footings. But then in that, they also had a second option for basically what amounted to something more or less a helical pier, where you actually have a pipe coming out of the ground that you then mount the thing on. And that's considered a perfect job. Because you got a pipe that you're sitting on top of and not just sitting on the dirt. So I'd be comfortable with that here too. Like I said, for this project, I don't have any heartburn. I just don't want somebody else showing up for, like I said, a real business, so to speak, something that's open every day to the public.
I think it's more than that. Another year of using the system, when you think about a year, that's, you know, the risk is pretty low. But if we're treating this as a permanent structure, you have to think in decades. And decades down the road, I wouldn't be confident in those earth anchors without a permanent
That's true.
So you don't count confidence in your 3/8 inch galvanized steel cable
Well,
lasting for a decade underground?
Could corrode in 20 years and you'd have a.
Yeah, and you won't know about it because it's buried in the ground.
I mean, we could grant a variance for X number of years, maybe. That might be a way to go.
That way they provide information so everything's checked.
Right, and then when we come back in 2-3 years, then we can insist on it being inspected, looked at, and see what condition it's in and that kind of thing. I suppose we could do something like that.
These appear to be installed as temporary structures on the ground, and I'm comfortable with that. But having it ask of us to call them permanent structures is beyond what I'm comfortable with.
Yes. I mean, we're only talking 40 days each year right now, just 40 days at this point.
Or the use of them, yes, but they're in place all the time.
They're there to be used if something else comes. Brainstorm. Yeah. And yeah, down in Florida, I see them everywhere down along I-65, little stations and.
So the other question is, if we restrict this to a 1-year variance, the variance expires and have to reapply for that. But they're not necessarily reapplying for design release again, correct?
I'd be willing to go more than a year. I'd be willing to go
I'm just
3 years.
kind of putting this to the next level. So we make them come back for a variance, they come in, they get a variance, and at the end of the variance, they get the variance, but they don't do anything else. They don't even check the cables, they don't.
Yeah, but when they come back for variance, if any of us remember, here, you know, we say, have these been inspected by, you know, a structural engineer on site?
Just to say real quick, again, we do have the state fire marshal's office out every year. They do have a copy of our variances, so there is a control mechanism there where if you did have.
They don't check
Fire marshal is the right person to inspect the
But no, they
foundation.
don't, I mean, they don't check on those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking for other items.
For exercise, looking for clearances and occupancy.
What the heck do the anchor trailers with in the mobile home?
They're like it's auger.
It's like, it's some
Ratchet.
You know, it's
So
like,
clearly we're putting people's
so when I
lives
give a tent variance,
on a
you know,
similar
we
product.
made them come back and say, hey, someone needs to check this on a regular basis to make sure the anchors. And like with us, our big couple tent places, we make their people come back and check on those things on a regular basis and let us know that, you know, it's still good, or, yeah, we got an issue. Since the pandemic and they started be put up more than, 30 days. So those ones that have been up all winter long, it's like, Mutton's is coming back and they're gonna check to make sure that, because they are a reputable company that wants to make sure that they're gonna stay in business. So they check on those things to make sure that they're continuing to be anchored correctly for those tents. Now granted, tents are a little bit different than these.
Let me try this, okay? I'll make a motion for a 2-year variance with the requirement that within 30 days of occupancy, an engineer has to go out and inspect and provide a written opinion that they are suitable for habitation.
Are we gonna require any kind of geotechnical soil testing?
That'll be on the engineer
Okay.
who's stamping the,
Who knows what kind of load capacity we have?
And that they would have to be.
you've got an engineer who
inspected
stamped it
before
right now, who said it's okay.
Yeah, we got an engineer that stamped it. He's supposed to have done all that.
So if they want 2 years, but before it's occupied for those 40 weekdays or weekends, the engineer has to come out and inspect and provide documentation to the owner that everything is okay. And that way, if an inspector comes out, they can ask for that letter, prove that it's been inspected. And then in 2 years,
You
they
don't
can
want like an
reevaluate it.
annual, you don't want like an annual inspection by the said engineer?
Well, I'm saying that every time before it's,
Before it's used.
before the season, this 40-day season, he's got to come out and do it.
Okay, so you are asking,
I'm saying, yeah, yearly.
okay.
He comes out, he signs off, they put it in their file. If there's an issue or the inspector comes out, they have to produce that letter.
To be honest with you, I'd like to see it be more like 3 years or something, just to give this thing some time to.
They're agreeable to the terms of the inspection, and then I'm fine with 3 years.
I mean, I want enough time to get some kind of a, to be able to see something. If something's gonna happen, I wanna see it starting to happen. And I think 2 years is too short for that.
Perfectly fine, to amend it to 3 years.
Okay. 3 years annual inspection.
3 years. 3 years with annual inspections. Prior to occupancy.
All right.
And what's the time frame before the event you said?
I would say within 30 days of occupancy, so that if there's anything that has to be done, they have time to do it. But I don't want it 6 months before they occupy, and then we have a big windstorm and something happens and we don't know about it, so.
So what's our end date on variance B?
We will give them, this is 2023, December 1st of 26. I guess in this 23,
And 4 operating seasons.
25, I'm sorry, 25. From December 1st of 25, that gives them 3 seasons. 23.
So we want 3 seasons or 3 years?
I want 3 years, so let's go ahead and make it the following year.
Make
December
it
the
12/1 of 26. So they get 4 seasons out of it.
4 seasons. There you go.
All right. So 12/1. 12/1 of 26. This is on variance B. All right, so we have a motion and a second on variance B to approve until 12/21/26. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries. Variance A.
Now we have a experiment that works.
So the other variance is for compliance with the energy code. 6 of these units are being provided with some sort of heating or cooling, mainly mini split systems in them for just some temperature control for the employees who are within the building at the time. Those buildings or those structures are the concession stands, the parking lot, the ticket box office, and the makeup and the costume containers.
Make a motion to deny.
These are basically,
Yeah. Why, it's 40 nights. People can just dress warm for 40 nights. Why are we gonna violate the energy code and burn up a bunch of energy for 40
Outside
nights?
heaters for their outside space for.
And the
people
outside spaces
Sitting
is
outside.
not, outside is not required to meet the energy code.
I understand that. But
If
what's the
any of these
difference?
buildings have plumbing in them, that's going to freeze and.
What's the
the
difference?
concession stands have plumbing in them, yes. They have some
How
service
is that
scenes.
plumbing connected to a non-permanent structure?
Very flexible pipe.
Asking.
I mean, yeah, for year round, but for 40 days, let the workers be a little more comfortable. I definitely wouldn't want to put the time limit on it.
Yeah, this, I mean, again, can we do this as a temporary, not permanent?
Just tied to the other, December 1st.
Well, except now we're talking X number of days out of the year, as opposed to how far down it stops.
So 40 nights in any 12-month period?
I assume we can do that? We're allowed to put that restriction on?
We can do that. We can deny it outright. It's just the motion on the table.
This isn't really any,
Guys out there counting nights and verifying nights.
it really isn't much different from other variances that have been like concession stands at like high school football facilities and stuff like that, who get the variance from the energy code because they're only using these heating and cooling devices when they're occupied. They're not heating the structure.
Installed, right?
What's that?
They're already installed, correct?
Talking about our location?
Yeah.
I do believe so, yes.
When were they installed?
I don't know that.
Probably last year. Could the owner weigh in on that? When were these installed?
Yeah, I believe they were installed recently. We received that variance and last year, and we used it for the season. So
So we did approve a variance for the heating.
So the variance that was last time was from GR 1247, which you guys gave temporary approval for the season.
I'd say it's been a year, but I don't recall an energy code variance last year. That's all.
Yeah, it was just the blanket 1247 variance.
Blanket variance.
Carte blanche.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
From my knowledge of it, I did not get that variant. I was not involved, but looking back at the discussion in the minutes, yeah, it was.
What type of systems are installed right now?
The drawings call out mini split systems. They go kind of installed on the wall of the units.
Heating and cooling?
Benjamin, do they do heating and cooling?
Pretty sure you don't need cooling in the fall.
they come from the factory with heating and cooling, and the inside of all of the units is insulated, and the insulation, from what I understand, would meet energy code. It's the flooring that is the issue. That's what I recollect is the flooring because of how they're set up.
It's the flooring and the roof.
Yeah.
They do have kind of a framed out wall on the inside with insulation in them.
Health code, they have to put liner panel in them to serve food. And
Yeah, and that's
They're not completely uninsulated. They do have kind of furred out walls with insulation. It's just the flooring and the roof do not meet.
Yeah, because they may have been storing radioactive material in these.
They're still warm.
It's a cotton candy club.
I mean, pardon me, well, if they don't have the heating equipment in there and they're still in that tech 4 heating, do we then make it, do they then like bring in space heaters, which is kind of doing the opposite of what we're intending, right? Yeah, there's an energy cost to
it. Sorry to interject. I can tell you in previous years, we have used tent and similar temporary structures for the Halloween event. And that is what the staff did, is they used space heaters in a very inefficient manner. And I can tell you that this methodology, even though it doesn't meet the current code, is energy-wise far more efficient. We used to have to watch how many space heaters we had around because we were pulling so much energy, and now we actually ran a load test at one point in the recent past, and it's a very small amount of electricity. I understand the issue, but I think it's at least worth pointing out that folks, when they're cold, will seek warmth, and we're going to do it in a safe way, but again, they're using it for about 40 days a year.
We'll call if you have a second, and if you don't, we can.
I was gonna say, I think my motion died for lack of a second, so
I'll make a motion to approve A.
We put the time restriction on it, making sure it's there, or is it in the proposal?
There's no way to monitor the time. I mean,
We say X number of days a year.
who's gonna count?
We at least should say it,
Who's gonna?
or we're setting a precedent again.
Then you're putting it on the local person to have to go out there and count.
take the camper up there.
If we put a time limit on it to match the 2026.
Right, I agree with
An expiration,
Expiration.
not.
Yeah, not like,
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to put X number of days on it, otherwise we're giving again a open-ended, whatever.
Leave those furnaces on year round, just for fun.
Exactly.
I mean, if your kids go up there and work, if they get too cold, they're not coming back.
So, builds character.
If they come back to work, they
Reason.
If Bill
I
Carrick-
agree to amend my motion to have it expire the same as the variance B.
I second that.
He's looking around anxiously. Okay,
Come on.
so we have a motion for variance, to approve variance A with the condition that it expires on 12/1/2026. Got that, Des?
What, sorry?
Approval expires 12/1/26.
Thank you.
We were actually saying on you, so it was important stuff.
So if one of us shows up,
You had to sign.
says, hey, we're here to check off your heaters.
All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm looking after the 7 billion of us on the planet. All
I
right.
want my hot dog to be warm.
We need a 10-minute break.
Let's try to, unless somebody down, let's try to file for earlier.
Keep moving.
Rock and roll.
Holy cow, we're gonna make it.
Derek, you're done?
I'm done, yes.
Shelley, you're done?
Yes.
Hey, come on down.
It's standing.
Do you have more?
I have 45 and 46.
Go for it. 2304, 45, A and B, CCIC Southern Tip, Indianapolis.
Thank you. Ed Rensink, RTM Consultants. So this is the Circle City Industrial Complex building, situated along Mass Ave, just north of 10th Street. It's about 550,000 square feet of total area. It's a very large building. This building was a auto parts manufacturing facility built originally in 1918, was subsequent additions. The current owner bought the building about 7 years ago, 8 years ago now, and has been fixing it up, adding new tenants. The main part of the building is developed a number of he's actually added about 100 new tenants in the north part of the building. This southern tip, and I provided a site image just to give you an idea of the overall building size and the southern tip. It's about 80,000 square feet on one floor and a partial second floor. This part of the building has been vacant since the 1990s. Needed quite a bit of repair work, redo the sprinkler system, quite a bit of other work associated with the exterior of the building. This current project proposes to convert the southern tip into a multi-use complex of tenants and uses. They've filed a couple of projects already for this. They were more business occupancy related. Got some maker spaces along the maker trail in the back. They also are proposing a food hall restaurant, a restaurant bar component. There's a black box theater that'll be kind of a multi-purpose assembly space, co-working facility for musicians, and then, as I mentioned, some artist studios and other things along the Makers Trail. So this project, or this variance request, is for the change of occupancy, introducing some assembly occupancies into the building. We did a Chapter 34 evaluation, which is appended to the filing. We're providing a sprinkler system, providing a fire alarm, and full detection throughout. We do have travel distance within permitted, travel distances permitted per the IBC limits. So the variance request, a variance A, is for a problem we have with our scoring. We've had about a small handful of these, at least a half a dozen or so that I've listed that were very similar. We're introducing assembly spaces or a change of occupancy from a previously large building, and we just can't overcome the hit that you get under in the allowable area category. So we're asking for points, marginally positive points in the allowable area category, as it's stated in the initial statement of the variance, in order to allow an overall passing score. The allowable area parameter ranges, it's capped at 1/2 of the fire safety score. So if you get a small building, we typically would get 7, 8, or 9 points for that, depending on the occupancy classifications. But the problem is it can go negative to infinity in theory. So the larger the building, it just doesn't work. Just a little bit of quick history of it. Back when Indiana first adopted a performance-based evaluation for existing buildings, similar to what we have in today's code, it was the old Rule 8 evaluation that was developed in the 1980s that was adapted from the old Boca Building Code performance chapter. There was a point where there was a significant code change made after that was adopted to juice up the scores in the sprinklered building so they wouldn't fail. And the hit for allowable area and or height was kind of minimal. The way the scoring works in this, you don't get a lot of points for sprinklers. Sprinklers do factor into some of the other scores, but you just can't overcome an allowable area problem. So we're asking for a variance to allow those additional points for that. If I get a chance while I'm still around to write code changes or help with a new code on the building code, I'd like to fix it, get it so it, my theory on these, it's the allowable area parameter is not insignificant. And it's an important evaluation parameter when you're doing a smaller building. But on a larger building that's sprinklered, the problem, the allowable area is really, frankly, kind of a marginal life safety issue. And I don't mean that to say that lightly, but I made the point here that we do meet egress travel distance. And so when you meet egress travel distance, your building can only be so big, or it's got to be configured in a way to optimize getting people out of the building under the code limits. So in this case, I just think that this is kind of a scoring anomaly, that we just can't get into these older buildings and change use. And we're doing a lot. I mean, it's a sprinkler system and a fire alarm system and full detection throughout. I mean, that's a lot. You can't hardly do anything better than that. So I'm hoping that in the future we can fix this. We have had a number of other projects where we've had to request a variance for additional points, but in particular, I've listed about 6 of them there that were very similar to this, where it's a large building, we just can't get it. If it's a concrete building, that's one thing, but if it's not, then you really hit your allowable area limits. pretty quick and it goes negative big time.
What is the structure? What is this type?
It's a type 3B building, so it's masonry exterior walls. There's quite a bit of steel in it. It does have I think the wood is the wood roof. It's got a sawtooth type roof structure, so that's mainly the wood in the building.
Can you go ahead and talk about this second, about B, to what you're talking about?
Sure, we'll just jump to that one. So in B, that variance request is to allow the limits of the Chapter 34 evaluation to be limited to just this southern tip space. And there's an exhibit, one of the exhibits I have in there illustrates that we've actually got about 120 feet of separation from the north part of the building or the large part of the building. But there is a connecting area there that's outdoor area, it's covered. And so it's, that's building area under the building code. So we have to count it as part of the building.
And that area is not.
It is sprinkled.
It is sprinkled.
Yeah, that outdoor area, that covered outdoor area is also sprinkled. So we basically had a sprinklered outdoor area buffering between the southern tip and then the rest of the building.
That's interrupted by the drive that goes underneath.
Yes, right, exactly. So they actually tore out a chunk of the roof to create this outdoor parking space area there. If you go to Google, you can see it, where they just cut the roof out, but then they left some of the roof in there, and that's this covered canopy space, and it's some covered parking in there also, yes.
Margie, did you have a question about breaking it down into smaller spaces perhaps?
Yeah, I was wondering if it could be done.
Margie, we're getting a lot of feedback when you talk. Can you pull your microphone away from your speakers a bit?
And repeat your question.
Can it be broken down to smaller areas?
Can it be broken down into?
Oh, broken down, okay. Well, I mean, anything's possible, but I don't see a lot of benefit in doing that. And it's very expensive. I mean, it would be very expensive to try to build firewalls in the existing building, especially with the sawtooth roof. So we're not going to be able to do that. And some of these spaces do connect. We will have, I didn't write it in here, we do have actually a 1 hour separation around the black box space because we have a higher occupant load in there, and we're doing that in order to meet an exception in section 907 to not require a voice alarm system throughout the building. So that section will say that you have to add up all your A occupancies in the building. If you have over 1,000, well, if with that 1 hour separation around that space, we'll be able to meet that exception. So we have a normal horn and strobe fire alarm system. So we do have that kind of, we do have that as a little bit of compartmentation in the building, but beyond that, it'd be pretty difficult to get anything additional. So I think I'd really want to just present this as an up or down option on what we've proposed, because I think we've done an awful lot with the detection, alarm, and sprinkler systems.
Are there any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve A and B.
And you're putting a full fire alarm system in there?
Yep, full fire alarm system with detection throughout, so literally all spaces.
We're still in one. We have a motion and a second. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any conditions? Okay, all in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? Aye. That is approved.
Thank you very much.
23, we're going to go in order. 230446.
Ed Rensink, RTM Consultants. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. I'm just really wanting to. Thank you. Ed Rensink, RTM Consultants. So this, project is an existing 6-story plus basement building constructed in 1916 as a bank building. I included some of the historical stuff in there. It's a little bit interesting and it gives you a little feel for the building. But this current project will convert the building into a hotel. We'll have hotel guest rooms on floors 2 through 6. The basement will have a lot of hotel support functions and storage, but also include a speakeasy lounge. And then the first floor has the hotel lobby, bar, restaurant, and food service components. So the building is type 1B, so we have a fire resistant building, 2-hour floors and structural frame. We have evaluated the building under Chapter 34. We do pass the pass without any trouble, really. We've got a sprinkler system for NFPA 13. I guess I should state the first variance then is section 403.1. We're proposing to add about 2,500 square feet of enclosed area on the roof of the building to create a new 7th floor. That would be a bar, a rooftop bar space with some outdoor area as well. So the variance request is to allow that addition without bringing the entire building into compliance with today's code for high rise, because it's about 3 feet over 75 feet. So it is classified as a high rise. So we accounted for that in our Chapter 34 evaluation. So in other words, when I go through the Chapter 34 evaluation and you evaluate fire alarm or smoke control or whatever, all those different things, I'm evaluating each one of those against high-rise requirements. So it is evaluated that way.
When you say 3 feet above high rise, are you talking the standing surface on the top levels 3 feet?
Correct.
Above? Okay, so it's not the protected roof above it.
Correct. Right. It's the floor level. So high rise is a floor level more than 75 feet above lowest level fire department vehicle access. That floor level will be about.
We're talking about the deck or the top, so.
The floor level will be 78, so yes. So we will have a sprinkler system per NFPA 13 throughout. We are adding 2 new enclosed stairs. There's kind of a open stair system in the building currently that will be partially retained. And then an exterior fire escape, we're providing 2 new fully code compliant stair enclosures. Our travel distance from that 7th floor is just 118 feet, short travel distance. We'll have a new fire alarm system. We'll have a new elevator. We're also providing a Class 1 manual wet standpipe system, which actually is not required by the Chapter 34 evaluation. So we're adding that into the design. We have actually had let's see, 1, 2, 3. We've had 3 almost very similar variances granted previously for these rooftop bar components on buildings for which we did a Chapter 34 evaluation. So those were 11, 15, and 11 stories respectively. So has been granted before. And then we've had some other existing high-rise buildings where we've had some other types of additions. One of them was a rooftop addition. I just listed the other 3 because they were hotels, so very, very similar, very much the same conditions. Hotel with a rooftop bar. So that's variance A.
I'm just quickly scanning. What again was the occupant load on the rooftop?
Occupant load? Oh, let's see here. Now, I said what the travel distance is.
I'm looking at those. Those are all chairs up against the glass countertop, correct?
I'm sorry, give me just a second. Let me thumb over to that. Yeah, that's an outdoor area out there. So yes, it is showing that on the outside. The interior space probably has an occupant load of less than 100. The exterior space adds quite a bit more. I don't know right offhand what that occupant load is. But, you know, I don't need a variance for a rooftop space. I just need.
This is John Hawkins, architect. It's on that drawing. The interior space occupant load is 62.
All right.
Good to hear from Chairman.
By the way, just an editorial. I know a couple of past chairmen that never would have let a Friday afternoon meeting drag on so late.
The only reason we're having a Friday afternoon meeting is because of the chairman. The chairman offered to let the vice chairman run it yesterday. But duly noted, sir.
We had a few long ones in the day when John was chairman.
Before staff started.
Yes, back in those days.
Oh, my word.
Sorry. We have a motion and a second to approve which ones?
A, D, and E.
A, D, and E.
D and E are both A.
I saw those. I just wanted to catch the last one. So A, D, and E. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. A, D, and E are approved.
Thank you. Variance B is for the roof structure over our 7th floor restaurant bar space. We're asking for that to be of unprotected steel construction. We are, as I mentioned, we've got a sprinkler system. We're also providing a enhanced design criteria for that, to protect that roof structure. We'll increase it 100% above the minimum required design density from to 0.2 over the 0.1 GPM per square feet. We have had 2 other variances identical to this for rooftop hotel A2 spaces. One of them was just a couple of months ago. I think the agency approved that one directly, but we've had a couple of them just in the last year. We have had a number of other similar variances approved for this condition.
Motion approved B.
Second. Motion a second to approve variance B. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Variance C addresses a corridor interruption.
This one.
A corridor continuity issue. The 2nd floor, if you look at the 2nd floor and the 1st floor, they're connected by an open stair. It's an existing historic stair connecting those 2 levels. We have a 1-hour corridor on the 2nd floor. And the 1st floor, we don't really have a corridor on the 1st floor because it's more of a hotel lobby that in turn opens to the bar, restaurant, and the other functions on the 1st floor. So we're requesting a variance to allow the corridor to be to not continue or to be open to all that space on the 1st floor. We do actually have everybody on the 2nd floor hotel guest rooms would have access to both of the enclosed stairs, so they would have to go through the 1st floor. But again, it's open to the corridor, so I felt we needed a variance for that condition. So we'll have the sprinkler system for an FB 13. We are providing smoke detection in the open area connected to the corridor. And I've noted here, as we've done on these past variances for this issue, is that in the life safety code, you'd be allowed to do this as long as the spaces are not used for sleeping rooms. And the space doesn't obstruct access to required exits. So that's a straight shot out the front door once you get at the bottom of the stairway. And I did note that we've had a lot of variances granted for this condition. You see some of them on some of our multifamily residential projects, but we've also had quite a few hotel projects. If you look up in the commentary, it says that, you can have foyers, lobbies, and reception rooms open to a corridor, and it talks about the lobbies and hotels. But it goes on to say that, well, you sort of have to exercise some judgment there because it's often not just a lobby, and it is, in our case, that is true. We've got other spaces that are open to that. So I felt like it didn't really meet that exception technically, so we are asking for that variance. Again, we're adding the detection and all that open area.
Okay, motion to approve C.
Second.
Motion and second to approve is submitted. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, back to where we left off originally. 230430 Olin Road, Indianapolis. Is there anyone online attending virtually here for 230430 Olin Road, Indianapolis? Motion to table.
Second.
Motion and a second on table. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye. Oh, take that back. I was supposed to.
Yes, motion carries you. 230432 elevator cylinder replacement, Evansville. Is there anyone attending virtually for 230432 elevator cylinder replacement, Evansville? Motion to table.
Second.
Motion and a second to table. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 230433 Project Skyhawk Plainfield. I know we have someone for this one.
Yes, hi. So Tina Danaker with Harrington Group, we're fire protection engineers, and Ryan Fire, I see, is on the line as well. They're actually the sprinkler contractor for this project. But basically, Genuine Parts, Napa Auto Parts, is building an expansion to their building. And as everybody's familiar, Auto Parts has flammable and combustible liquids. So they'll be storing some motor oils in the new expansion. The problem with the Indiana codes, it just refers you, to the chapters in the IFC, which does not really give you the sprinkler design options that you need for flammable and combustible liquids. So we want to use NFPA 30. That's also not adopted in Indiana. And the section in NFPA 13 that references to go to NFPA 30 has been deleted, sends you to the tire building chapter, which doesn't help. So this variance is to use NFPA 30 as well as kind of an engineering approach. So NFPA 30 has a sprinkler design scheme where you have solid horizontal barriers and in-rack sprinklers every 12 feet in the rack. And you do not balance your sprinklers with your overhead sprinkler system. The issue being Napa's pallet loads are 6 foot in height. So in order to go the 2 levels where you put your horizontal solid barrier, we would need to be 14 feet between those barriers versus 12 feet, which is what NFPA 30 recommends. We did submit an engineering letter with documentation from FM Global schemes, NFPA 30 schemes. We are recommending balancing the overhead, and our overhead density is a lot greater than what NFPA 30 would require on its own. So the variance is kind of 2-part. Number one, it's asking to use NFPA 30 FM, our engineered letter, to protect the combustible liquid since the fire code does not have appropriate protection schemes. And then to have those barriers be spaced 14 feet apart versus 12 feet apart, just because the pallet size is 6 foot versus a normal 4 foot pallet size. And I can share my screen if that helps with the sketch. I don't know if you guys have the letter in front of you or anything like that.
This one is attached. Yeah, I thought so. Okay. You're talking about the letter there. Yeah, I see the letter you're talking about.
Yeah, this one shows Plainfield, Georgia is the project location for the Centers Connect. And the designer is Duluth, Indiana, so.
Never know, man. It might be Duluth, Indiana.
That's okay, the designer is Duluth, Georgia, Tina is shown as Duluth, Indiana.
Yeah.
Could be.
Is this pretty standard across the whole United States with the Napa warehouses now, 6 foot?
It is just for their oils pallets, right? So most of standard sprinkler design, they assume a 4-foot tall pallet, but the motor oils in the cartons end up being 6 feet. So, you know, if you've got 6-foot pallets and 2 levels, you won't hit that 12-foot requirement.
Some of those numbers.
And this is just for their oils racks that we're requesting this. Every other rack's not an issue. It's just their oils racks that they need this.
Is there a maximum area for the racking system for the oil?
I don't know how many racks they ultimately decided on with their material handling. The drawings that we initially submitted into the state and the town for initial permit did show what racks we thought were going to be the combustible oils. I just don't know if they had finalized that. And Ryan Fire, I don't know if you have additional information on that, if they actually finalized those rack locations, but it's only a few double row racks that they'll be having their oils stored in.
This will always be oils, it won't change into something else, the different rack spacings, but now we have 14 feet of area for there's not 6-foot pallets.
Correct, but the interesting thing about the solid barriers and the in-rack sprinklers, they are schemes used for other materials. It is a very robust sprinkler protection, so it's used for other materials besides combustible oils. But yes, they have designated an area in their warehouse. They have designated an area for their combustible oils that we need these in-racks and solid barriers provided in.
So I guess what you're saying is
if they increase that or decrease that, they'll adjust the systems to accommodate.
Or they can put other stuff there, right. They just can't put the oils elsewhere.
Exactly. Yes. So if you want to expand your oil storage, it has to be taken into account.
Correct. They would have to outfit some, if they needed to expand their oil storage, they would have to outfit some additional racks with solid barriers and in-rack sprinklers. The oils cannot be in a regular pallet racking without this protection.
Tina, you noted that our codes don't address this. Do newer versions of the code take this into account?
Well, your codes would if the amendments weren't there, right? So I actually struggled with trying to put in the actual amendment because, NFPA 13 sent you to NFPA 30, but you guys actually deleted that section in NFPA 13. And so there's no pathway to get to NFPA 30, and you don't adopt NFPA 30. So that's what the struggle is here.
Struggle's real.
Motion to second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
230435 Camelot in Jasper. Yeah, I guess they're not here. That was incredibly timely. 230435 Camelot in Jasper.
Table.
Motion and a second on table. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 230436 Beech Grove sprinkler variance, Beech Grove. Is there anybody attending virtually that is here for 230436 Beech Grove sprinkler variance, Beech Grove?
Motion to table.
Motion and a second to table. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 230439 Walmart 6390 Indianapolis.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah. Can you see me and hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. I'm Hannah. I'm with Telgen Engineering and Consulting. We're a fire protection firm. Also on the line is Alex. And so this project is a Walmart neighborhood market in Indianapolis. And what they are doing is incorporating a online grocery pickup model and storage area in the front of the store where there's currently offices and the pharmacy and the vision center. And so they're looking to remodel that front area into a concentrated space for these totes in which the associates fulfill online grocery orders. And so in this space, it's not very big. There's a few single row racks, and these racks have pallies, which are carts, and they hold these blue tote bins. And the blue tote bins are plastic, so it's Group A plastic, and it is exposed, non-expanded. And so what Telgen did with Walmart is we came up with a series of fire testing, full-scale fire testing for the exact arrangements that Walmart is proposing to store these totes in. And the purpose being that it's to upgrade the sprinkler system regardless from protecting commodities 1 through 4 up to this Group A plastic. And so what Telgen did was conduct these tests. And the reason for the variance is that we conducted the tests under the provisions of Section 1.5 in NFPA 13. And I saw that 675 IAC 28-1-5 omits that section for the state of Indiana. So that's why we're here with the variance regarding the sprinkler system upgrade to protect the Group A plastics.
Do these carts with these bins have like dedicated parking spots, or does this kind of, when the employees get lazy, become a willy-nilly mess of things shoved all around?
Yeah, I was in a few of these in different states this week, and it's an operation in there. They have the carts parked under the first level of the single row racks. And if you're not out of the way, you're going to get run over by the carts running back and forth and out to the cars to fulfill those grocery orders and back into their parking spot. So the aisle widths are about 4 feet, I believe, between these racks is what the testing criteria was. There's a series of criteria for pass fail, and so that's what this performance-based criteria was developed around. In accordance with that section 1.5 that was omitted and why we're submitting the variance.
I don't have 1.5 in front of me, so I'm not sure why we deleted it, but it would comply with that section if it were not amended out.
The criteria, section 1.5 is allowing the option to create an equivalent design to what is proposed in NFPA 13 prescriptively.
Okay. Thank you.
That I normally bring before you.
Sorry.
These are the ones that we had to normally bring before you because they've taken out the alternate methods for design.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well.
See light at the end of the tunnel.
Why don't you just fix this?
There it is.
Come on, man. This is already on overtime.
She told to walk the fence for herself if she's hungry.
230441 Sandstone Apartments, Greenwood. Is there anyone attending virtually who is here? Go ahead.
Yes. Hello, this is Mark Meadows.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, apologize. I've been online most of the day waiting for this to come up. I am actually the developer and we represent the property owner. And we just want to make sure that we oppose this variance. The plumber has buried the P-traps for our washers under the slab and refuses to fix them. We've actually offered another tradesman $600 per washer dryer area to cut up the floor and fix it. He said it's a hardship. But it's $24,000. And this is a $1.4 million contract. I can't see how $24,000 to fix your mess up is a hardship. So we oppose this variance.
I'll make a motion to deny.
He's not the owner. The person filing variance is not the owner.
Applicant. So just to clarify, the applicant is not the property owner and is not here on behalf of the property owner. They're just the person that's in violation.
They're not allowed to file it, are they?
No, I think he's saying that over time that they do this against it.
Says the submitter is H&W Plumbing.
Mark, can you go ahead and run through that just one more time? We don't know if get this argument.
Mark, did you?
Yeah.
Answer the question of who submitted it.
Yeah, H&W Plumbing is our subcontractor, our plumbing contractor. And they had actually buried the P-traps below the slab. Greenwood City came out and did not approve it. And so they filed for a variance under hardship, of which I emailed back DHS when it first started that we oppose this. We want these fixed correctly. We don't want a variance over this. And so, and I don't know if H&W is on here or not, but I just want to make sure you guys knew that we own the property and we design, build, and own and operate these properties. And we don't want P-traps under the concrete.
Yeah, he's not the
Yeah,
owner.
it sounds like the applicant doesn't have legal authority to submit for this variance anyway.
You would have to submit it.
Yeah, the owner or owner's representative would have to do so unless I'm speaking out of turn.
And it's, yeah, and we are the owner representative.
Okay. Also, this one, Dennis was found in Greenwood, Illinois project. Another.
Slightly out of our jurisdiction.
Sorry, I brought that.
Yep.
I think there's also a contractual issue between the owner and the plumbing company. And it sounds like the plumbing company is trying to solve a contractual breach by saying, well, hey, there's a variance for this project, you can use it, but that's up to the owner to dispute with the contracted plumbing.
So my motion to deny.
Well, wait a minute, wait a minute. The question is, can we deny it whenever he couldn't even submit it?
We even need to write it. Yeah, shouldn't it just be like structure?
Should we even entertain it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it has the same substantive result if you deny it or don't, because it doesn't exist as a matter of law. So whether it's if it's stricken from your calendar, that would be an administrative action that the plumbing company could appeal. But at the same time, if you deny it, its operative effect of not allowing non-compliance with this provision of the code, I think, is the same.
But could they also appeal that?
That's the thing, should they just not hear it?
Appeal if they can't, but if there's,
I mean, you'll have to take an action on it one way or another, and whatever action you take can be appealed, so I don't think that there's a way around that.
Well, and the code specifically states that you can't do this anyway.
So
Like the old UPC, the 99 Indiana plumbing code, you could do this. Because it was based off the 97 UPC, which allowed some crazy stuff.
Can we just say no variance required?
No. My motion to deny stands. I have a second. All in favor of denial signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sticking with us.
That's a new one.
230443 Baxter Building G Warehouse Upgrade, Bloomington.
Yeah, good afternoon to the commission. Tim Machina with Ryan Fire Protection on behalf of Baxter. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Thank you for your efforts today. Been a long haul for you. Ryan Fire Protection and Baxter are requesting that we utilize NFPA 13 edition 2020 or 2022 in lieu of NFPA 2010 and NFPA 13 2010 edition. So this comes down to an existing building which is currently not in compliance with their overhead fire sprinkler system due to the type of storage that's in it. They have asked to upgrade the system to protect it properly. And the specific section that we are citing is just to allow for the NFPA 13 2022 edition, the obstruction rules that are in that. We're complying completely 100% with NFPA 2022, where it's not selecting a certain thing. But because of the existing structure that is there, it is hard to get our proper spacing, that we are away from the structure as far as we should. It's not even structure, it's actually just bracing and maintaining the maximum distance and minimum distances away from the heads. So that is the gist of the variance.
So again, you're fully complying with NFPA 13, 2022.
We are, yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Oh, we have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate your patience. 230447 A and B Grandview Solar, Grandview.
Hello, how are y'all doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. Friday afternoon. This is the best place to be, isn't it?
Sure. Margaritas at 5.
So, A and B, A, I believe, is our NEC variance request. Our NEC variance request is due to the state of Indiana. It's currently enforcing the 2008 NEC code for electrical work when it comes to solar PV projects, and particularly NEC Articles 690 and 691. NEC has seen significant changes since the 2008 cycle to address newer technologies and system safety. Some of the other articles of the NEC that would pertain to the solar projects have changed to address things like DC wire color coding, grounding, voltages up to 1,000 volts instead of 600, as well as numerous other items. So we're seeking approval to design the Grandview Solar project to meet the 2020 NEC requirements that better cover these kind of scopes related to solar farms.
And you will fully comply with the 2020 NEC requirements for solar farms?
We will.
Recommend approval of A.
Let's do time. Do we have any indication that any part of this project is a class 1 structure?
Yeah, so they haven't no variance required action letter right here because these aren't class 1 structures.
There it is, proposed action. I don't believe it contains an occupied building of any sort, but I wouldn't swear to that. Or,
We can ask them. So are these buildings occupied?
They're not.
so it looks like the department sent you a letter notifying you that no variance was required because they're not class 1 structures. So why are you pursuing the variance?
That, I'll be honest, that's not quite sure on that one either. I had heard about the no variance required letter, and then we had a notice that our variance was to the board here, so.
So did your local building official tell you that it didn't meet code? And
Maybe that was the case, that they just wanted, they wanted to look taking at it. I know.
Yeah, basically if you want to use a newer code than what we have adopted, which is what's on here, then you're correct. You would need a variance to allow you to use the 2020 NEC and to allow you to use ASCE 716. However, if these are not class 1 or class 2 structures, then they don't fall necessarily under the purview of this commission, and therefore our rules don't apply, which is why you would not need a variance because they don't fall under it.
would
Does
they
that
be
make
considered
sense?
you? I mean,
No, we don't regulate anything other than class 1 and class 2 structures, yeah.
So nobody regulates this.
I don't know if there's a state agency that has purview or not.
So you're hooking
We
up.
have definitely approved solar variances before, but I think that there were different stipulations in them. If there may have been.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I'd just like to bring that on a past project here in Indiana, we have filed these similar variances. And they were granted, so I'm not sure. I don't know if it's something, that's just kind of the process that we were following here. Then we didn't get any no variance needed letter last time, I don't believe.
Yeah, we processed these almost, I swear, exact variances.
And yeah, I'd say it could be something, maybe the local utility or someone.
It's possible. I don't know of any regulation or rule that we have that places this under the commission's authority. I don't know if there will be any legal consequences one way or the other if you chose to approve it or not.
But they include in the new code? Would they be considered possibly in the new code as something that we would look at?
I said, yeah, if we had a new electrical code, it might be something that falls under it.
It's possible it could be included in some scoping statement early in the code or.
But even if it's in the electrical code, if the scope of our authority doesn't include it, it doesn't matter, right?
Ultimately, yes. The body of the
electrical code included that.
The body of the model codes typically.
It still wouldn't, because the scope of us is
Let's worry about that.
statute and the GAR, not the comprehensive code, right?
So this company might be out of Oklahoma and have to do a new code, just assume that we would have the same.
Is this more reaffirmation or whatever, that he's going to follow those rules and he needs documentation to that? I mean, is that it?
Could be. He just wants to.
So if this were,
Belt and suspenders.
if this was a clear-cut class 1 structure,
Yeah.
and he wanted to meet these 2 standards, it's a warehouse, he wants to meet these standards, yes, he needs a variance to be able to do so.
Okay.
Commissioner Burgess's statement is that this in and of itself, there's nothing here in the plans that have been submitted that constitutes a class 1 structure.
If this is a typical solar array like you see out here near the airport, that doesn't have any other occupied structures that are part of it, there's no part of the project that would be considered class 1. Even if there were structures involved in it, the rules
of the commission would apply only to that structure and not to the solar array. At least that's my opinion. Might be helpful to the local jurisdiction. That might be what it is, because I know Indianapolis has issued permits and done inspections on solar farms. They didn't have structures included.
If you want to table it, we can discuss it and come back at the next meeting and chat about it, so I can delve a little deeper into it, but I echo what Craig's saying, if it's not within the, if it's not within the commission's purview, no variance needed allows them to build it, have the blessing in terms of non-compliance, because it's not, so it's opposite with the same result, but if we want to look into it a little deeper, and Craig and I discuss it, and I can render it, DHS position on it, we can come back to the next.
I mean, he's done this in the past. I wouldn't necessarily want to slow the project down by tabling it, but at the same time, I understand the department's stance. If it doesn't fall under it. Let me ask you this, what's your timeline? If this were tabled for a month to allow more research into it, is that slowing you guys down?
Yes.
Is there a reason?
We are,
Okay, I'd say, I don't think there's anything that says we can't approve it and then you guys get the answer. I just. Yeah, like I said, I don't know that there are any legal consequences to you saying no variance required or to approve it, either one. I just don't think that it's under your authority. So was your question about the NDR versus?
Yeah, I mean, we have an opinion that it's an NDR. Why don't we just?
From a reputable source.
Yeah.
You can semi-design it under that. Okay.
I do have a question for you. When you say ASC 710 versus ASC 716, more current atmospheric data, what do you mean by more current atmospheric data? You talking wind loads?
Atmospheric loading such as wind speed is, I think one of the.
So it is the wind stuff then. Okay.
And Chairman, this is just shooting from the hip, I don't have all the facts, but just to put it out there, if no variance is needed, they obviously don't need your blessing for the non-compliance. If you grant a variance for something that you didn't have legal authority to regulate, the operative result is ultimately the same, that it wasn't, meaning they could have done it anyways without the variance. You granting it doesn't do anything for them if we decide after research you didn't have the authority. So I guess you can move forward either way. If the position of the commission is that they're fine with it, the outcome is the same from my position currently. But I'd want to look into it with the facts and delve a little deeper into what the code is saying. But I echo what the state building commissioner is saying on that.
Because they want to move forward.
Exactly.
Chugging away and
But I think the mood of the commission is to allow them to move forward. It's just, how do we do so most appropriately?
And I think that's for future questions that come up, but in terms of this one, if the policy judgment is to say, yes, from a wisdom perspective, we want to allow them to do it, there's no harm in granting it, and then it was void because it could have been done without a variance anyways.
Yeah, so if it turns around and does need a variance and we didn't approve it, they'd have to come back.
Correct. Whereas if you just approved it, they did need a variance.
In that case, approving it's probably the safer or more expedient measure.
To prevent it from a critical event, yes, but because it has no negative effect, would be my.
Well, I'll sit down now. One last question. If the letter was sent notifying them that it was going to be NDR, then why was it referred?
That's my question.
And I can't answer that. I was out the last 2 weeks of April on vacation.
Let's go ahead and approve it because we don't want them to have to come back again.
Correct.
unless.
If it doesn't make.
So we have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thanks for your patience.
And that was A and.
I just want to confirm that was for A and B, correct?
Yes, A and B are both approved.
Thank you very much. Enjoy y'all's weekend.
Absolutely as well.
We're trying.
Let's end with a wedding barn, because why not?
230448 Secret Meadow Event Barn in Celeste.
Melissa Tupper, RTM Consultant. This variance request you've seen numerous times. It's for a new event barn that exceeds 5,000 square feet and has an occupant load over 100 to not be sprinklered. It's a one-story 5B building with a small mezzanine, approximately 690 square feet. The building will have a fire alarm throughout, smoke and heat detection throughout. We'll have all the standard things we have, a shunt trip. Our maximum travel distance is 48 feet from the first floor. We have 5 exits directly to the exterior from the first floor. The calculated occupant load of the building is 300, which would only require 2 exits. Our exit width could accommodate 1,280 occupants. No open flames. Decorative lighting will be UL listed. Any decorative materials will be fire retardant treated. I've listed all the previous approved variances before. The hardship is cost, which our cost estimate was low. We actually got a written estimate that I included that was over 160,000 versus 100 to 120,000 that we thought the cost was going to be. So based upon that, we request approval of the variance.
What's the total cost of the project, did you say?
It's $898,397. It's the estimated cost for the building. And the cost for the sprinkler system is $163,475. The written quote we got.
898, right?
So this is brand new building?
Yes. And these are all the same conditions we've had for all of the other previously approved variances.
Usually it's for repurposing a building, right? Not a brand new building.
No, we've done brand new before.
Hi, my name's Denise Berger. I'm actually the owner. We actually are planning on putting in the pond that actually contains a natural spring in it. So it's always going to have water, and we're only 1.2 miles from the fire department. It's just down the road. So if I could add that in there too.
Has the fire department issued comment on this, Melissa?
No, it's volunteer.
They don't speak.
Hard to track them down.
Not typically. We're lucky if we would get their approval on when we had to actually get it to have the variance heard. So usually they're not in very often. So getting a response from them is difficult, and I didn't check with them though. Again, we've had numerous variances just like this approved. We've got all the same conditions, and we actually got a written quote for a sprinkler system that was in excess of what we were estimating.
What is the calculated occupancy?
300.
Say it again.
The first floor and loft. 300 occupants. It's on the variance. So again, the rationale is if this was a barn that was existing, the variance we'd be requesting is to allow the use of Chapter 34 based upon all these same provisions being provided and not sprinklering it. This case, we have a brand new building. We're going to do the fire alarm, smoke and heat detection throughout. We have over double the amount of exits we are required, super short travel distances, way more capacity. It's all new construction, so everything will complying bathrooms.
What happens in the loft?
We actually have changed that. The loft is not going to be used for public use. It's only going to be for storage. So no one will be actually allowed up there from the public, just to cut down on the square footage actually being used by the public, so they'll just be allowed in the main area only.
Yes, sir.
Is that,
I missed the first couple of statements in the proponent's argument, but I just wanted to say that if anybody is suggesting any kind of equivalence to equivalency to a Chapter 34 project that would pass without sprinklers, just keep in mind that Chapter 34 accepts a higher level of risk to the building occupants for the economic benefit of building reuse.
Yeah, I think you Chapter 31 brand new.
is there water available?
She puts down here that.
The nearest water line is 0.2 of a mile away from where the building will be. We are at the top of the hill. The main is down at the bottom of the hill, which is probably close to 1,000 to 1,500 feet away from the entrance to the property.
Yeah, it's 900 or not 900, 96 over $96,000 for the underground work. Another almost $30,000 for the fire pump. The sprinkler interior work is over 70 or 37,000. Again, this variance has been granted numerous times under these same parameters, given the same alternatives offered.
I could take that to us.
Well, I kind of go back to, again, site selection. You know, it's new construction. It's not a historical barn that we're talking about. It's a brand new construction. Why are we selecting a site that doesn't have water?
There's a list of previously approved variances for new
And
construction
we are,
for this.
and we're not talking about those. We're talking about this project. Stay on target.
Denise, do you want to speak to why this site was chosen?
We chose this because it's literally right next to the property that, it is part of the property that we bought. It's right over the hill from the house. So if anything happens, we're obviously going to see it. We're going to be there for every event. Also, to make sure, you know, that everybody's taken care of in the way they should. The water supply that was, you know, the closest one is obviously going to be the main water line that's out by the road. But there is a natural spring that does produce water and will keep the pond filled. We have every intention to also put in a dry hydrant for the fire department use in case they would need it. There is another pond behind our house that they could have access to as well. The fire department around here being volunteer, they usually handle things with a dump truck and set up a dump tank for fire purposes. There's no hydrants. We've offered to put in a hydrant. I think the water department had mentioned something that being at the top of the hill, it's a little bit more challenging just because the line got smaller towards the top of the hill than the bottom of the hill that we're not close to.
I know it's been a while.
The only reason we have picked this location is because it's literally on our property, right next door to us.
I know it was a long time ago, but I know a hydrant off a pond was something that it was included in a previous one.
Won't use it, correct, because it doesn't damage their equipment.
Yeah.
Have to be maintained on a regular basis and should have screeners.
You suck all kinds of stuff in these blocks.
How far east are you from Patoka Lake?
We're about 3 minutes from the Lake Fork Marina on the very west side of the lake.
Oh, okay.
And we're 1.2 miles from Celestine Fire Department.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't honestly even tell you where the nearest hydrant is on this road that we're on. But I can see the highway if I look out my window from way over the hill, but still.
You talking 164?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, I understand that dry hydrants put in ponds sometimes cause problems for fire departments, but all of our fire departments in this county, I've been on one or was on one for 15 years. That's how a lot of the fires are fought, are with dry hydrants, and they do test them monthly to make sure everything is working correctly. And, you know, they do training on that stuff. That's how a lot of the fires get fought around here, are with dry hydrants and dump tanks.
So they would come and test your private dry hydrants for you?
Yes.
Who would
At
make a
least,
company?
at least my other at least one of the other fire departments that I was on did, yes. Because it's an asset to the fire department.
You wouldn't actually do it.
Yeah, we'd have a fire protection company come in and test that hydrant to make sure it's working correctly.
Yeah.
And maintain it.
Now.
And I wouldn't have a problem doing that either. Like I said, I know the fire department, St. Anthony, in this area that I was on, they tested all of the dry hydrants in their township for the homeowners.
It's a lot of liability.
Now, I don't want to sound like a dummy, but it's gonna come off. A dry hydrant is one sitting next to a body of water.
So it has a pipe that leads in.
It goes down to the bottom of
water, and it has like a, you know.
So
filter
I
on
just
it.
put a pumper truck to it.
Yes, it's trapped, basically. It's just
Okay.
trapped into the dry.
I'm learning.
Same thing as if it's dropping down a draft, then down into the water. Same thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, if there's a big enough fire around here, God forbid that doesn't happen, but if there is, they usually call for another department to assist, and they're constantly shuttling water from wherever they can get it out of.
Right.
Whether it's somebody else's lake, if it's a hydrant somewhere, but it's usually more than one department that would show up. Like I said, God forbid it happens, but I'm trying to take every precaution for that. We even added in 2 extra 8-foot garage doors into the main area, just for an evacuation. So there's 2 8-foot garage doors, there's 3 double doors, and then there's 2 single doors on the west side of the building.
And the precaution would be just sprinkle.
Yeah, but opening up overhead doors on the fire is not the best thing. That's why the doors close behind you. But that's just a little bit of life science.
When you talked about the extra exit, you were not counting those overhead doors, were you?
The extra access.
Exits.
Exiting, the extra exiting.
No,
If
the
they would,
overhead doors are not, the overhead doors are not counted in the exit capacity or width that I accounted for. No, only the swinging doors.
Okay, good. Thank you.
There's no food preparation area.
no, it'll be catered in food only. There will be like a kitchen area, but no stove or anything like that. No open flames.
What did you say the project budget was again? I forgot.
The actual was like 898,000
And change, yeah.
and change.
Like 898. It's on the variance application, 347, I believe, something like that.
Come on.
Did I hear correctly that this would pass the 3412 analysis if it wasn't an existing building?
Yes, but as Commissioner Burgess was saying, there's a lot of life safety concessions given in order to retain existing building stock.
Yeah.
This doesn't
You're
even.
repurposing something that's got some historical value to it. This does not.
Yeah, discussing it, comparing it to a 34 is just entirely inappropriate.
Correct.
Except if, like the previous case we had, they built it as one thing and tried to convert it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if this was a barn that was being converted, yes.
Or a house.
Yeah, it's a
house that got converted.
And so between the two evils.
Wrong holiday.
Time to go.
I just don't want to get in the habit of letting people just build buildings based on what was approved for a remodel, building new, just anticipating, not sprinkling, anticipating that they're not gonna have to do the things that the new building requires just because of remodel approvals that we've done. They're gonna give and take and
No, I completely agree. Just that we've done in the past doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Right, I understand. And I see what you're saying, like, okay, well then, the building says a barn, and they come back to us, chapter 34, then it of course backs that. At that time, I get that.
So then we're just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, if this was built in the city, that only part of fire alarm or a sprinkler system, it's just part of the cost. If you're building a new building, that's just part of the cost, do the business.
You say you know with certainty that the fire department or their representative will test the dry hydrant, or you are assuming that?
I'm assuming that, but I would pay to get it tested if that's what it takes.
They test them. That's the thing, they would test them. They would test them, they might use them sometime.
A donation or something, or.
Till they break them.
Or they might not.
We broken a dry hydrant.
Have you?
Before I was on, had paperwork.
I don't believe the cost to put one in is excessive, so if it came down to something happening to it, we would definitely, take care of fixing it. I wouldn't expect the fire department to do it because I'm putting it in for their use.
Doesn't have to be monthly.
No, you just test them manually.
In January.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So the fish are sleeping.
Make sure you're not sucking all the rocks and pebbles and fish in.
Chopper pump.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little tip to the water. We've had about all facets of them handed to us.
And alcohol will be served, I assume.
Yes, and we will make sure that we are the bartenders, or we hire out the bartenders. They won't be allowed to hand it out on their own.
Yeah.
That'll be, we'll be getting a license for it, yes.
Yeah, that does work.
We have two motions, three of them mine.
Yeah,
Somebody.
And then previous variances, for 13 of those, between 13 and 15 of those, the only person on this commission at that time was Mr. Hyde.
Was who?
Todd. Like, none of us were probably on the commission, and none of us were here other than Todd have been here prior to September of 2017.
Right.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these were with this group, and the rest were all under previous commission.
Well,
I think what I'm saying is it's your fault.
No, my point is,
there were
to try and
a number of-
stress the precedent, you're
There
talking
were
about
a
an
number of
entirely
referral
separate group of
groups
people.
Since you and I joined the commission, but in more recent time, there have been some additional commission members added that have kind of changed the attitude on these things in general.
Agreed.
Who does this brand new is in Mooresville, correct?
They may be similar, but a variance is supposed to be looked at each individual one. It's not supposed to be a blanket thing.
Well, right, I mean, I think part of our job is to weigh circumstances with the safety, right? And if this was built in the Indianapolis area, I would feel much differently than.
In Celestine.
Yeah, in Celestine, Indiana.
Patoka area.
So, weighing each one, we have to discount the argument of precedent.
Agreed.
With the circumstances of, while still, I mean, yeah, we're focused on safety, but I think we are still obliged to consider business impact in our.
I understand that. You know, are you repurposing something? Or are you building brand new that you know you're supposed to comply?
Correct, but there's, I think there's also a consideration of, you know, these wedding barns don't want to be built in cities, right? They're purposely building them away from cities to provide a certain atmosphere. And.
No, I get that.
So,
How long ago did you purchase the property?
I've been here for 2 years. I went through a divorce and I had to find somewhere else to live. Sorry.
I mean, you're down in that area, you're looking at possible economic growth. I mean, it's gonna be a plus, because I live in the country. I don't wanna go.
What percentage of the total cost do we consider enough to be a economic impact? You know, where I don't.
That is our judgment call, I do believe.
Yeah, I mean, we could decide to deny this, and they can still proceed with the building of this structure for the extra $100,000 in sprinklers or whatever, and they have to make that work in their business. So if we deny it, it's not saying they can't build it. It's just that they have to relook at their pro forma, make the justification. And right now, they're sitting at approximately 12% or 11% of the cost is sprinkler, which in the past, we've said that that's a little high. But well, there's no definition for what's too high or too low.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the variance with an if. The annual water testing of the dry.
First, you gotta ask her about hydrant.
First, you have
It's not in
to
the proposal.
require the dry hydrant.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I make a motion to approve with the exception of a dry hydrant installed in the pond. In annual testing on it.
For some reason I have in my head, there was one more thing we talked about that isn't in there. Variance request, but the life making, I can't remember what it was.
Most of these types of variances on these wedding barns, you're asking for structural stuff, but you don't have to deal in a brand new building because they built the building. Yeah.
Bring these 100-pound loading in the loft.
Oh, yeah, the loft thing, that's not in the application either, so add that. No public access to the loft.
Plus,
thank you.
No public access to the loft.
No public access to the loft.
And no combustible storage in the loft.
Yeah.
Correct.
Couldn't be much in the loft.
Well,
Okay.
we have to have a loft because it's the ceiling for the rooms underneath. So I can't make it completely go away, but I can make it so nobody goes up there and there's nothing up there.
I will second that.
Okay, so I got dry hydrant installed.
I've got a question, Melissa. Yeah, I'm looking at this, the scope for the sprinkler. We've had this before where they then couldn't put in the sprinkler system. Do they know they have the water pressure and supply to support a sprinkler system? Because nothing in there says that they have it.
They had a fire pump included, so I'm guessing they anticipated that, plus, you know, over $90,000 for the underground work.
The fire pump's only $29,500. They told us there was $250,000 earlier.
And 284,000.
Yes.
Maybe we need to hook those two groups up.
Cadillac.
Okay, you have a motion and a second?
It was the dry hydrant.
I have a dry hydrant to be installed, tested yearly, no public access to the loft, no combustible storage.
That is right.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion to approve and a second with those conditions. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, so we're gonna go to a hand vote. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yays. All in favor, or all opposed, raise your right hand. It is 4. So this motion carries 6-4.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Sorry I made you wait so long.
No problem. All right, local variances, we have none. We can't approve that anymore. Industrialized building system reviews, we have none. Report on administrative review. LALP has issued no new findings of fact, conclusions of law, or recommended orders at this time. Commission review local ordinances. I think we already discussed this, but with the passage of House Bill 1575, Commission no longer reviews local ordinances. Any ordinances previously under consideration are considered void. Just out of curiosity, will somebody be notifying anyone that has
We've
sent
already
us?
notified anybody that had ordinances pending before the commission since that part went into effect upon signing.
What about pre-approval ones that have sent? Okay, so every ordinance that we had on the list.
Have been notified.
Thank you. Rulemaking amendments. With the passage of House Bill 1575, all current rulemaking is voided. Reconvene after August 1st with the establishment of the new commission. Final comments. Thank you, everybody. This has been a long one for our standards. And it's Cinco de Mayo, so be sure to celebrate the victory of the Battle of Pueblo. And for those of you that are looking at the agenda, we are not in conference room 2 next month. We are in conference room A. Thank you all. Have a wonderful month. We're adjourned 5:23.